Welcome to New Possibilities. I speak truth to power without fear. Today I'm going to talk about Obama's legacy and the Black community. And to launch that discussion, I'm going to mention two quotes that the president has made recently that have received a lot of press. The first quote is this. He says, "If I hear anyone saying their vote does not matter, that it doesn't matter who we elect, read up on your history. It matters. We've got to get people to vote. I will consider it a personal insult, an insult to my legacy if this community lets down its guard and fails to activate itself in this election. You want to give me a good send-off? Go vote." That's what President Obama said to the Congressional Black Caucus at their gala. The same Congressional Black Caucus that for a long time the president wouldn't even meet with. So he made these statements, and obviously, as many people know, I'm a strong advocate for voting. I believe that the vote is crucial, that we need to participate in every single election, whether you're voting for one of the main party candidates or you're voting for third party candidates. We need to exercise our right to vote. So obviously, I agree with that portion of the president's statements. As for this issue of his legacy and the continuation of his legacy as a personal insult and all this and that, I want to talk about that for a second. This man is basically encouraging Black people to vote for Hillary Clinton. That's what he's doing. And I want to talk about that for a second. He's encouraging Black people to vote for a woman who supported policies that led to the mass incarceration of Black people. This is well documented in articles written by Michelle Alexander, is well documented in her book, The New Jim Crow. This is the woman that Hillary Clinton, this is the woman that Obama wants us to support. This is the woman he wants us to vote for, Hillary Clinton. A woman who supported cutting welfare benefits for the poor. This is the woman he wants us to support. A woman who supported disastrous trade policies, policies that Obama had no problem calling out when he was running in '08. Disastrous policies that helped fuel unemployment in poor communities, in Black communities. This is the woman he wants us to support. A woman who supported the deregulation of Wall Street. That deregulation led to the financial collapse in this country. It led to massive housing crisis and foreclosures that had a disproportionate impact on Black communities. This is the woman Obama wants us to support. The woman that he described as being corrupt. A woman that he described as receiving more money from lobbyists than any Democrat or Republican. A woman who supported bankruptcy policies that were against the interests of the people. A woman that he called out in '08, in that '08 election. And I will include a link to a video that shows his statements back in '08 and compares them to his statements now, and it exposes the president as just another one of these slick talking, disingenuous politicians. One of these fake people that says one thing and does another. This is the woman he wants us to support. This is the woman he sees as a continuation of his legacy. This is a woman who used race baiting during the '08 election, who talked about the possibility of the president being assassinated, who talked about white, hardworking Americans not supporting Obama. This is the woman who floated the idea that the president was somehow alien, that he was somehow not American. by putting out photographs of the brother in African garb and Muslim attire. This is the woman that Obama sees as a continuation of his legacy. How does that make any kind of sense? How does it make sense? The reason why so many people are opting out of this election, unfortunately, is because of Obama being a disappointment to them. Because a lot of people had great expectations. They had high hopes and dreams tied to the president. And many of those ideas were unrealistic and were really unachievable. But people had these high hopes for this president, and he let them down. He let them down hard. This brother campaigned on Yes We Can. He campaigned on hope and change. He campaigned on these things. So people saw great potential in his presidency. In fact, I was one of those people that saw great potential in his presidency. And in part, I named my blog New Possibilities in part because of Obama's election. Because I saw this as a chance or an opportunity for new possibilities for Black people in America. But because of the shortcomings of this president, many people no longer see politics as some great opportunity to create real change. This man campaigned on being post-partisan. That's what he campaigned on. He sold the people the idea of a post-partisan America, an America where people could move across the aisle, people could move beyond Republicans and Democrats, beyond that divide, and address common problems that the American people face. But we don't see any kind of post-partisanship today in America. In fact, during Obama's time in the White House, and it's not his fault, it's just a political reality. We've seen this country being more partisan than ever. We've seen a Congress made up by right-wing nuts, racist Republicans who have obstructed every single progressive idea that this president has presented. You've had politicians do the most crazy of things during Obama's era. You had one politician, one of these racist politicians, yell out to the president, calling him a liar during the State of the Union address, something that's unprecedented. That's the height of the partisanship. You had a whole branch of government basically hold the American people hostage by refusing to negotiate on the budget. You had people disrespect the president more so than any other president in the history of the United States. You've had people depict him as a monkey. You've had people call him a terrorist. You had people demand that he show them his papers. And the sad thing about it is, the president actually showed these pigs his papers. So despite all the hype about being post-partisan, a post-partisan America, Obama let the American people down. He let down Black people by promoting all this hype, this propaganda, when the reality turned out otherwise. This man campaigned on being post-racial, moving beyond these barriers of race. In fact, before he even began his campaign, before he even was a U.S. Senator, this brother came to national prominence because of a speech that he gave during the Democratic National Convention, where he talked about how there's no white America, no black America, no conservative America, no liberal America, and all that kind of stuff. There's one America, the United States of America. So he was already in that kind of mindset. He was already promoting this post-racial propaganda. And since he's been elected, and this is not his fault, the actual outcome is not his fault. I didn't expect this man to end racism when he was elected. But this man was elected on that kind of campaign of post-racialism. But we have seen the height of racial tension in this country recently. And I'm not saying that this time is more racially polarized than ever before, because we know that that's not true. We know about slavery, we know about Jim Crow and all that kind of stuff. But in recent history, I can't recall a time where you had all of these incidents of police brutality. And it's probably because of the technology that we can now capture this. But these incidents, seeming to be endless incidents, constant incidents of police brutality where black people are being killed, this flies in the face of everything that this man campaigned about. It flies in the face of all this post-racial BS. Because black people are being killed. And when we look at the president, a man who's supposed to have all this power behind him, he's supposed to be the most powerful man on the face of the earth, when we see that he cannot realistically do anything to prevent these police killings, we see that even in the era of a black president, black lives still do not matter in this country. That's a major disappointment for black people. Even though, if someone really has an understanding of politics, they would have known that this man wouldn't be able to solve that problem. But that problem, that constant reminder that police brutality is a reality, the constant reminder that racial profiling continues to be a reality in this country, that is a major disappointment. That is why we are disappointed. That's why a lot of us have been let down. Because we had high expectations, high hopes. So I understand if a lot of people are not excited to get out here and vote after that experience. We were told, we'll wait till his second term. Then, we can expect him to speak out boldly about these issues. But here we are in the last couple of months of this brother's presidency. The last year of his presidency. And still this man hasn't mustered up the courage to speak out boldly against racism in this country. There have been moments where he's spoken out about racism, but not enough moments. Not enough. And his recent statements about Colin Kaepernick is just a reminder of what I'm talking about. This man tries to be on both sides of the issue when it comes to race. You can't be on both sides of the issue. You either are for us or you are against us. It's just that simple. Black people have supported this man more than any other president that has run for office. We have supported this man more than any other group of people have supported him. No other group has given him the kind of support that we have given to him. No other group. But yet when it comes to black people, we are second-class citizens. Our issues are secondary to this president. Just like any other politician, just like any other Democratic politician, our issues are not a top priority. And that's not to say that Obama has not done anything for black people. And I'll talk about what he's done that has been beneficial to black people. But given the overwhelming support that we have provided this man, he hasn't reciprocated by showing us the same level of support, by showing us the same level of commitment. Instead, he wants to please everybody. Instead, he wants to be on both sides of the issue when it comes to race. And this is an example of what I'm talking about. Obama said this. He said, I want Mr. Kaepernick and the others who are on a knee. I want them to listen to the pain that they may cause someone who, for example, had a spouse or a child who was killed in combat. Then he went on to say, but I want people to think about the pain that he may be experiencing or expressing about someone who has lost a loved one that they think was unfairly shot. So first of all, there are several problems with this statement. Number one, it's a false equivalent. It's a false equivalent. Because Kaepernick, he's not disrespecting any soldiers that have fought in America's wars. He's not disrespecting them. He's not condemning them. This brother is speaking out against police brutality. He's not the one that killed anyone abroad. He didn't kill any of these soldiers. He didn't support the killing of any of these soldiers. Whereas the police are the ones who actually killed our people. They're the ones who killed Michael Brown. They're the ones who killed Sean Bell. They're the ones who killed Rakia Boyd and so many countless other black people. So there's no equivalency there. The second point is this. He talks about how they think they were unfairly shot, or how we think, or how Kaepernick thinks they're unfairly shot, implying that it's just a perception in our mind. It's just our viewpoint. It's not necessarily the reality, implying somehow that these people were not unjustly killed by the police. I have a problem with that. We have the example of the brother who was killed in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Clarence Crutcher. So the president is basically implying that somehow it's a question of perception. That somehow it's just a concept in somebody's mind that these killings were unfair, that these killings were unjustified. We have all these killings where black men and women are unarmed and they're killed or shot by the police. You had an example of the brother in Miami who had his hands in the air and was laying on the ground, and these police shot that brother. You had the shooting in Louisiana recently with Alton Sterling. You have all these shootings where black men are killed who are unarmed, who did not pose a threat. And this president just wants to say, well, that it's a perception, that it's not necessarily an unjustified shooting. That doesn't sound like empathy to me. That sounds like someone who is trying to play both sides. That sounds like someone who is trying to placate everybody, and he's placating no one. Black people have given you too much support to receive that kind of response to this crisis of police brutality. We've given you too much support. Kaepernick is not causing the same level of pain that our people suffer when they're killed by police. So quit making that false equivalency. Quit making that false comparison. with all the support that the African American community gives you, we deserve better than that. We deserve more support than that. And we should not really be surprised about this. We shouldn't have been surprised about this. Obama has never been a race man. He has never been an advocate, like a strong advocate for black people. This man has always sought to eliminate these distinctions between people of different races. He's always focused on like a we are the world type of mentality, a please everybody mentality, a love everybody mentality. And that's why these white people embraced him so much. That's why they voted for him, because he was non-threatening. They love that kind of talk. They love talk about how there's no black or white, there's no rich or poor and all that kind of stuff. They love that stuff. They love that American patriotism propaganda where you put your American identity above everything else. They love that stuff. So that's why they came out and voted for this man twice. That's why he could draw large, massive crowds of young white people because of that type of message. And not only that, obviously he has charisma and all that kind of stuff. He's one of the greatest speakers of our time. But he's never been a race man. And we should have known that before he got elected. We shouldn't have had these unrealistic expectations for him if we knew what he was about. And some of us ignored it because we were caught up in the idea and the possibility of having a black president. So we let certain things slide because we wanted to see a black man in that White House. It meant the world to us, and it still means the world to us to have a black man in the White House. The symbolism of that president and his family is powerful. And often that symbolism overrode everything. And that's unfortunate. It's really unfortunate. So this brother, he didn't speak up on this issue. He didn't speak up strongly enough. He made an earlier statement where he said that Kaepernick has a constitutional right to protest. But this statement right here is weak. This statement just embodies one of the fundamental flaws of Obama. Him trying to please everybody. Him not having full commitment to his people. That's the unfortunate thing. And the fact of the matter is, his experience growing up is not like the average black person's experience. In this society, race obviously is a social construct, and biracial people are, for all intents and purposes, viewed as black people. They are treated as black people. They are discriminated against just as black people are. But we have to be clear, Obama was not raised like a normal black person. This man did not have a black man in his life. His father was not a crucial part of his life. He wasn't raised by his black father. He was raised by his white mother and her white parents, his grandparents. That's who raised Obama. That's the environment that he grew up in. He was raised as a white man for all intents and purposes. And I'm sure that before he married Michelle Obama, he dated plenty of white women. So he's going to see both sides of the issue. And that's a major flaw in his presidency. The fact that he has not been a fierce advocate for his most loyal supporters. That's a problem. And an even bigger problem than that during this Obama era is the fact that so many black leaders failed to hold Obama accountable. They failed to do so. They were sleeping at their posts. Many of these black leaders sold the hell out for access to power. They compromised their principles and they became defenders of the status quo instead of defenders of the people. Instead of being advocates for our people, they just fell asleep in order to get access to power. They became Obama's attack dogs. Instead of holding this man accountable, as we should hold every single politician accountable, these people became his defenders. These people became his uh, attack dogs. They attacked other black people that had the courage to demand that this president address our issues. They attacked and crucified people like Cornel West, crucified people like Tavis Smiley, crucified any black scholar or black spokesperson who had the nerve to speak out about President Obama not fulfilling his obligations to our community. Many of our people were pacified by symbolism. They were pacified by that, pacified by the power of seeing a black president. So they let a lot of things slide. And that's unfortunate when we look back on things. So Obama, in a nutshell, he didn't live up to a lot of the expectations, whether realistic or not. This president, and I'm going to conclude by talking about the things that he has done, because I think a lot of people exaggerate when they say that he hasn't done anything for black people. That's a bold-faced exaggeration, and I'll talk about that as well. But I understand the criticism of this president. This president campaigned on peace, but yet there were more drone attacks than ever before. Drones sent all around the world bombing, not just terrorists, but bombing innocent civilians, bombing wedding parties, killing children and women. Not only that, the Obama administration toppled Gaddafi in Libya, leading to destabilization in the region. This man campaigned on his opposition to the Iraq War. And now we see the emergence of a barbaric terrorist group, ISIS. This man campaigned on peace and all that kind of stuff, but yet he has given billions and billions of dollars to Israel, the greatest threat to peace in the Middle East. He gives billions to Israel. He has an undying support for Israel. While places like sub-Saharan Africa, many countries there are in need of aid, he gives billions to Israel. While there's starvation around the world, he gives billions to Israel. While there's disease around the world in struggling, developing nations in Africa and elsewhere, he gives billions to Israel. Billions to Israel. It's a major disappointment. This man has been a fierce advocate for the gay community, but he hasn't had the same level of advocacy when it comes to the black community. Even though he has done things for the black community, I'll talk about those things, but he hasn't been as active or as energized or as motivated when it comes to black issues. And when black people call the president out on it, we're giving a speech, a lecture about how he's not the president of black America. He's the president of all America. This president and his surrogates, they don't talk to any other interest group this way. They don't tell immigrants that he's not the president of immigrants. They don't tell the homosexuals that he's not the president of homosexuals. They don't tell the Jews, the Zionists, the AIPAC lobby groups. They don't tell them that he's not the president of the Jews. But when it comes to the black man and woman who have been his most loyal supporters, we're lectured about how he's not the president of all black people. He's not the president of black America. He's the president of America, period. And we put up with this stuff. Too often when he speaks to black people, he lectures black people about personal responsibility. But does he lecture the racists the way he lectures black people? I don't think he does that nearly enough. So that's my criticism of the president, but I will also conclude by talking about his accomplishments. He has done things for the black community that should not be ignored. Things that have benefited the black community. Like his Brothers Keepers program has benefited communities in Newark and communities that are black around the country. He helped push and pass the Fair Sentencing Act. That's a major achievement. Healthcare reform is a major achievement. The Affordable Care Act helped ensure many Americans who were denied coverage based on pre-existing conditions and other things. So this brother has made it possible for more people to get insurance, and many of us are disproportionately uninsured. So that's a positive thing. This brother has helped improve the economy in this country. When he was elected, this country was in an economic recession. Unemployment was sky high, and he helped address that problem. He helped bring down unemployment, not only in America as a whole, but in the black community in particular. But still, he has not done nearly enough in that area because we still have double-digit unemployment. Well, we have twice the level of unemployment in the black community as the white community. And that's been with us for decades, well before Obama got into the White House. That is another manifestation of institutionalized racism that has not been addressed. But still, he has done a lot to improve the economy. He helped save the American auto industry, thereby saving lots of jobs in black communities where black people were given an opportunity to keep their jobs. In communities in the Detroit area where there's a heavy reliance on the auto industry, he saved jobs. So he must be credited for this, even though President Bush is the one who helped pass the legislation or whatever for the building of the African American Museum. That museum was completed on Obama's watch, and that's a great thing that should be celebrated and commended. This brother, through his Justice Department, reached settlements with police departments in Baltimore and Ferguson. He's investigated incidents of police brutality, and he should be commended for that. Hopefully those settlements will result in some kind of fundamental change in those communities, in communities like Baltimore and Ferguson. But only time will tell. So that's an aspect of his legacy. The fact that he helped fight to protect affirmative action in the case of Fisher versus the University of Texas. That's significant because affirmative action makes it possible for people like myself to receive higher education, to go to law school, to go to medical school. to become professionals. So that should be commended. That cannot be overlooked and glossed over, and people cannot pretend like this man didn't do anything for black people. This brother also defended the Voting Rights Act in the case of Shelby County versus Holder. That's an important fact because we know if somebody else was in that White House, they may not have defended that case or tried to protect the Voting Rights Act. Even though ultimately the brother failed to protect Section 4 of the Voting Rights Act, the fact that he tried to protect it is significant and shouldn't be ignored. It shouldn't be. But it is another failure, the fact that a significant section of the Voting Rights Act was struck down on Obama's watch. That's significant. Because now you have jurisdictions that are passing all kinds of laws to suppress the black vote. And that brings me to another point again about the importance of our vote. If our vote didn't matter, they wouldn't be passing laws to suppress our vote. They wouldn't be having misinformation campaigns in the black community if our vote didn't matter. Also, on occasion, President Obama has spoken out against racism in his country, like in the Trayvon Martin case, where the brother Trayvon Martin was gunned down, shot in the heart by a racist, George Zimmerman. The brother Obama spoke out. He talked about how if he had a son, he would look like Trayvon Martin. He could be Trayvon Martin. This brother also spoke out on the case of Henry Louis Gates, who was arrested for trying to go into his own house. So this brother Obama has had moments of clarity. He has had moments of courage. And we can't gloss over those moments and gloss over his contribution and say that this brother has done nothing for black people. That's just completely false. And I don't take people like that seriously. I can't take them seriously because they're not presenting the facts. They're not presenting the full picture. And perhaps like the most significant thing, and many people that measure things in terms of actual achievements may disagree, but I think that one of the most significant things that this president achieved was promoting powerful symbolism. Here we are, a people, a nation that has never had a black president until Obama stepped in that White House. The idea of a black president was beyond our imagination. Like many of us saw that as impossible, as impractical, as unrealistic, as unachievable. For all our lives, we saw presidents as white men. For all of our lives, we saw the white man or the dollar bill on the currency. And now we have a black president. And that symbolism is powerful. The power of that symbolism cannot be underestimated. Here you have an intelligent, articulate, educated black man in the most powerful position in the land. You have a black nuclear family, a married man with his children in the White House, at a time when too many of our households are headed by single parents. You have this example, this beacon of hope in that White House, a symbol for us to aspire to be like. A symbol that has boosted the self-esteem of our community. Just to see a black man exercising power, a black man governing one of the most powerful nations in the world, a black man governing without scandal. without stories of side chicks and political corruption. That imagery means the world to our people. And this may be the last time in our lifetime that we see a black president. But this brother has planted seeds of hope in the minds of our young people. Many of our young people grow up in an era where all they know is a black president. So they don't have the same psychological boundaries on their mind that we had as children. They realize that perhaps anything is possible for them. Anything. They're not growing up in an era where the idea of a black president is unimaginable. That's achievable in their minds. Anything is achievable in their minds. So those are my comments on the legacy of Obama and the black community. I'm interested in hearing from you. Please rate, comment, and subscribe. And by the way, if you like the video, give me a thumbs up. Peace.